In 2020, Trish Regan found herself at the center of intense scrutiny after her commentary on the COVID-19 pandemic led to her departure from Fox Business. To many viewers, the decision appeared swift and final, marking what seemed like the end of a prominent chapter in her television career. But the story didn't stop there. Years later, Regan remains active in the media landscape, reshaping her platform and continuing to speak to a loyal audience through new formats. Yet behind the headlines and public debate is a more complex personal journey, one that rarely makes it into public discussion. This is the lesser-known side of Trish Regan and how a single moment reshaped her path. Born Patricia Ann Regan, she spent her early years in New Hampshire, where she participated in beauty pageants and worked summer jobs waiting tables across New England. Proud of her roots, she went on to win the Miss New Hampshire title, earning the chance to represent her home state at the Miss America 1994 pageant. In later interviews, Regan reflected on the intense preparation required during that period of her life. Pageantry, she explained, was about far more than appearance. It demanded quick thinking, adaptability, and the ability to connect with people from all walks of life. Even mastering the art of walking in heels and a swimsuit, she joked, was a skill she certainly doesn't miss. Although she didn't take home the Miss USA crown, Regan surprised many by winning a special award for her operatic performance. Few fans were aware that she possessed such a powerful singing voice. In fact, her talent was so strong that she once believed she might pursue a career as a professional singer. She studied voice in Graz, Austria, and later at the New England Conservatory of Music in Boston. But her future would take a different turn. Regan had long shown a natural aptitude for journalism and numbers. Her passion for reporting began as early as 5th grade, and she even served as a school correspondent for her local New Hampshire newspaper. After completing her studies in music, she went on to Columbia University, where she studied history. In a surprising shift, Regan then entered the world of finance, working as an analyst in emerging debt markets at Goldman Sachs. Fluent in Spanish, she focused on Latin American sovereign debt, covering markets in Argentina, Brazil, Mexico, and Venezuela. Her career trajectory changed once again when Bloomberg Television offered her a role as a correspondent. Seizing the opportunity to blend her financial expertise with journalism, Regan transitioned into broadcast reporting without hesitation. Beginning at Bloomberg in 2000, she found herself covering the collapse of the dot-com bubble, reporting from Silicon Valley and San Francisco for MarketWatch. She later returned to New York to work as a business correspondent for CBS News, contributing to the CBS Evening News, Face the Nation, and 48 Hours, while also serving as a correspondent for CBS Money Watch. In 2002, her work earned her the Outstanding Young Broadcast Journalist Award from the Northern California Society of Professional Journalists. 4 years later, Regan returned to her financial roots as an anchor on CNBC's top-rated markets program, The Call. Her investigative reporting on terror links between South America's tri-border region and Islamic extremist groups earned her an Emmy nomination in 2007. She also received a Gerald Loeb nomination for her documentary Against the Tide, The Battle for New Orleans, which examined the city's levee failures following Hurricane Katrina. During her time at CNBC, Regan regularly appeared on NBC Nightly News and The Today Show, and she covered the 2008 financial crisis as it unfolded in real time. In addition to her daily reporting, Regan also produced and hosted 2 of the highest-rated documentaries in CNBC's history, Marijuana Inc. and Marijuana USA. Both projects explored the rapidly expanding underground cannabis industry long before legalization became mainstream. She later expanded on this work with her 2010 book, Joint Ventures: Inside America's Almost Legal Marijuana Industry, in which she accurately predicted that marijuana would soon move out of the shadows and into the mainstream economy. Throughout the early 2010s, Regan proved herself to be such a valuable media figure that she maintained strong relationships with several networks she had worked with earlier in her career. By 2015, she was still collaborating with Bloomberg Television, hosting the daily global markets program Street Smart with Trish Regan. That same year marked a major turning point. Regan joined Fox News and Fox Business, anchoring the Intelligence Report with Trish Regan on weekdays. With this new platform came increased visibility and, inevitably, controversy. Just 2 years after her arrival at Fox, reports began circulating that then Fox News chairman Roger Ailes had personally selected Regan as a potential replacement for Megyn Kelly. Kelly had exited the network, famously describing primetime cable news as a snake pit. Given the circumstances, many assumed Regan was the clear frontrunner to inherit Kelly's coveted 9 p.m. time slot. But events took an unexpected turn. Roger Ailes resigned amid multiple sexual misconduct allegations months before Kelly's departure, leaving him powerless to shape the network's future. Ultimately, Fox News chose to move Tucker Carlson Tonight into Kelly's former slot instead. Many insiders later speculated that had Ailes remained in control, Regan likely would have landed the primetime position. Regan didn't dwell on the setback for long. The following year, she transitioned into a more traditional conservative talk format with a new primetime program, Trish Regan Primetime. The move gave her greater editorial control and placed her squarely in discussions involving heavier political and economic issues. However, that expanded influence soon brought serious backlash. One of the most controversial moments of her Fox tenure came during a Fox Business segment titled Something Rotten in Denmark. In the broadcast, Regan compared Denmark to Venezuela, a nation in deep political and economic crisis, arguing that Denmark's social welfare system had stripped citizens of opportunity. She criticized Denmark's high taxes and claimed that government benefits discouraged people from working. According to Regan, stipends paid to university students promoted laziness, and she went on to suggest that many graduates aspired only to open cupcake cafes. She framed Denmark as a cautionary tale, warning viewers about what she viewed as the dangers of socialism. Denmark did not take the remarks lightly. Danish officials and media outlets quickly pushed back, accusing Regan of misrepresenting their country. Denmark's Social Democratic Party released a video response titled Something is Rotten at Fox News, aimed directly at disputing her claims about welfare, education, and employment. The response was followed by a wave of statistics comparing Denmark and the United States on economic stability, growth, and employment. Danish Finance Minister Christian Jensen even invited Regan to visit Denmark if she was willing to confront the facts firsthand, noting that Denmark ranked 11 places higher than the U.S. in OECD employment statistics. Back in the United States, critics of Reagan's conservative views added fuel to the fire. Even some of her supporters struggled to defend her, as questions about her journalistic credibility began to surface. After facing criticism from both American and Danish media, many expected Regan to issue a formal apology. Instead, she attempted to clarify her remarks. She stated that she never meant to suggest Denmark's conditions were comparable to the humanitarian crisis unfolding in Venezuela. Regan argued that she was simply referencing reports from outlets such as The Atlantic and The Independent to make a broader point, that socialism in her view was not a viable model. However, citing those publications backfired. The outlets quickly distanced themselves from the controversy, issuing statements emphasizing that their reporting did not conclude that socialism categorically fails. The damage, however, had already been done. The backlash she faced, both inside the network and from the public, was intense. yet Regan remained on air for another 2 years. Then came 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic was a defining and devastating moment for people across the globe. Families mourned lost loved ones, businesses shut down, and nearly everyone felt the economic shock caused by lockdowns and restricted movement. In early March 2020, as initial cases were being reported worldwide, few fully grasped the scale of the disaster that was about to unfold, Trish Regan included. On March 9th, as confirmed cases in the United States continued to rise, Regan addressed the growing crisis on air. Her headline segment was titled, "Coronavirus Impeachment Scam." During the broadcast, she claimed that criticism of then-President Donald Trump was reaching a fever pitch, accusing Democrats of blaming him alone for a virus that originated overseas. She framed the backlash as another attempt to impeach the president, arguing that political opponents cared little about the damage they were causing in the process. Regan repeatedly referred to the situation as impeachment all over again, and went further, accusing the liberal media of exploiting the COVID-19 outbreak to attack and undermine the president. She also suggested that media figures and investors were allowing personal bias and political hatred to spiral out of control. The response was swift and furious. Healthcare professionals, lawmakers, and public officials condemned the remarks, with one lawmaker stating that COVID-19 should never be treated as a political issue, and calling Reagan's commentary deeply irresponsible. In the days that followed, global financial markets plunged. Investor panic, driven by fears over the economic impact of the virus and collapsing oil prices, sent stocks into freefall. Meanwhile, COVID-19 cases in the United States surged rapidly as the virus spread across the world. As public concern intensified, Fox News and Fox Business Network came under growing scrutiny for how their on-air personalities initially handled the pandemic. Critics accused the network of downplaying the severity of the virus, often framing it as a political weapon aimed at damaging the president. This approach drew even harsher criticism when observers noted that Fox's core audience skewed older, demographics most vulnerable to the disease. Before the end of March, the backlash surrounding Reagan's segment had become impossible to ignore. Fox Business placed Trish Regan Primetime on a temporary hiatus, but the criticism did not subside. Soon after, the network quietly removed the show from its lineup altogether. Other programs followed, including Kennedy, FBN AM, and Bulls and Bears. The Fox Business restructured its programming. For Regan, the consequences went even further. Our business officially ended its relationship with her, releasing a statement thanking her for her years of service and wishing her success in future endeavors. The network also announced a reduced live primetime schedule, citing the need to redirect staff toward continuous breaking news coverage of the coronavirus crisis. Regan responded with her own statement, expressing gratitude for her time at Fox and the opportunities she had been given. She said she planned to focus on her family during the difficult period ahead and looked forward to the next chapter of her career. That marked the end of Trish Regan's time at Fox. But it also marked the beginning of something new. Regan quickly recognized the opportunity presented by independent digital media. With an established public profile and a loyal audience, she pivoted away from traditional networks and embraced online platforms. In 2021, she re-emerged with The Trish Regan Show, a podcast produced under her own multimedia company, TR Holdings. The move proved highly successful. With more than 1.1 million subscribers on YouTube alone and tens of millions of views each month, Regan reinvented herself, from a former cable news anchor into a fully independent media force. Today, The Trish Regan Show ranks among YouTube's top 100 podcasts, cementing her place in the modern digital media landscape. For those wondering whether her message has shifted, Regan's own About page offers a clear answer. It states that through her daily news program, she delivers what she calls fearless, common-sense conservative analysis live on YouTube every weekday, with a strong emphasis on free speech, economic freedom, national security, and long-term financial stability. Beyond her on-air work, Regan holds several influential positions in the financial media space. She serves as executive editor of the monthly online publication American Consequences, and is also the co-founder and executive editor of 76research.com. Chanti, an independent financial research firm that provides market intelligence to investors. In her personal life, Regan has been married to her husband, James Ben, since 2001. Together, they have 3 children: Elizabeth, Chaimi, and Alexandra. She has openly acknowledged that balancing a demanding career with motherhood was not easy at first, but she takes pride in having found a system that works. Regan has shared that there were times she brought one of her children to work, and she often includes them when traveling for business, an approach that has allowed her to remain closely connected to her family, despite the relentless pace of her professional life. As of 2025, the 53-year-old Regan continues to be a prominent conservative voice. She hosts the Trish Regan Show podcast, offering commentary on politics and economics across platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music. She is also a sought-after keynote speaker, frequently addressing topics related to fiscal and monetary policy, while maintaining an active presence through media appearances and written commentary. To her supporters, Trish Regan represents resilience, the ability to keep moving forward regardless of how many setbacks life throws your way. And even her strongest critics would likely concede one thing: her determination is undeniable. In hindsight, when Regan spoke during her pageant years about the importance of thinking on your feet, she wasn't exaggerating. She's been doing exactly that ever since.